Today we're going to talk some sense with Craig Rosenberg, Chief Analyst and co-founder of Topo. We'll go behind the scenes to the building of Topo, as well as get the Cliff Note version on their recent ABM study. Tune in to talk some sense. I am here with Craig Rosenberg, Chief Analyst and co-founder of Topo. Welcome, Craig. Thank you so much for being here. Want to try to kick it off and tell me a little bit about founding Topo.
So, Topo is a research advisory firm, and what makes us different from the others out there is that we really focus on studying the world's fastest growing companies, and we study them across marketing, sales development, and sales. So whereas, other research might go for lots of data points, we're just focused on data points from world-class, so fast-growing companies. And the cool thing is there's been, as you know, there's amazing things happening in B2B, all right? So that's what we do. So founding Topo, that core idea of figuring out what world-class companies are doing, that has resonated since we started. We like to say we've never starved, we never had to eat top ramen.
Good.
Right, the value prop worked out of the gate. Okay, because we look big, we've always looked bigger than we were, and that has been, partly how we've presented ourselves to the world, and that is a really interesting learning, because I think even if it's a service company, you just think about going. I do, right? I just think about meetings, revenue, like go, let's work, 18 hours a day trying to drive to the number, and that is still important, but for me it was like brand, whatever, but it was key. Yeah. The other one though, speaking of numbers, is, so we had a rule from the get-go that we had to do 10 meetings a week per person.
Love it.
Yeah, it was the best thing we ever did, and we still try to do it today. So what we've noticed is that
10 is a lot.
It's a lot.
Because I haven't always been in marketing. Before that, I led sales. And I used to say, try to do 4.
Right.
So 10?
10 is crazy. I mean, right now, 10 is not happening today. Well, it is. I mean, we do it in spurts. So we put numbers on ourselves for a Dreamforce, let's say.
Totally.
Instead of saying we're going to do this, like Scott will say, hey man, let's go sign up to go get executive meetings and whatever. And it works by putting a number on it. But anyway, early on, right, 10 meetings was key to growing the business. And one thing we learned that's really important for people, because we're also metric centric, is, we never got a deal from the meeting. We always got a deal from the person who knows a person. Had we not been out there talking, we wouldn't have grown the business.
Right.
But what we noticed was, so we'd come out and we'd say, well, what were the results of those 10 meetings? We had to look at it 3 months later, and we realized whoever you met with, an executive, a VC, whatever, it was like 2 months later, you just get the intro. Hey, I was talking to this person, they need this. And that's been interesting, the person who knows a person. And that's been sort of part of it. But the big thing is we learned a lot, we evolved a lot, and because when you talk to people, you're talking about how you meet with customers, you've just got to get out there and engage. That's how you really learn. And you learn everything from how you should market to how you should sell to what the product should be to what's happening in the world. So I think that is one of the big things.
Sometimes we forget the basics, right?
Yeah, big time.
Yeah. So I love that Topo stands for seeing patterns.
Yes.
Because we all want to be able to see a pattern and have something repeatable that we can use.
Right.
So, and you work with these leading companies. What are their challenges? What patterns are they seeing? Particularly, like one of the things we talk about at Sixth Sense is the way buyers buy has changed.
Yeah.
Which requires us as sales and marketing to change.
Oh, yeah. I think the world has truly changed. I think, we've gone through a number of buyer changes that I think that we've recognized, initially when buyers became highly digital, that was really the age of digital marketing. Little things like just realizing we should email them or we should put, content in these things. We've come to that realization. Now we're in a different era.
Kind of table stakes now.
It is. If you don't do it, it's bad.
Yeah.
But now we're in a different era, so I'm glad you asked the question. So we'll talk about how the buyers are set up internally and how that affects us. So one is lots of stakeholders involved in the deal, that we often don't know are involved, right? And so it used to be, I don't know, people always say, I'm not sure it was always a straight line, but we always knew. We had a handle on it, you know? So let's say it was...
You had that book, Selling to Veto. Remember that?
Oh man, I have a veto
I'm dating
story.
myself.
No, I had a CEO that wanted to do Selling to Veto, so don't worry, you're not that bad. But yeah, you know, you had 2 or 3 people that you could sort of wrap your hands around and move a deal through, and now there's lots of people with their hands in it. The other thing, though, you mentioned on the Selling to Veto, is the first instinct for everyone is to go high, right? The highest you can get, and that person's going to say you're going to buy it. But that's actually not true. The most powerful person is the person assigned to go do that.
That's not how I buy.
Of course.
I'm not going to use it. I'm not going to log in.
Yeah.
You tell me. What do you want to use?
That's right. Your trusted person's going to say, I need this, and they're going to try to go to you, and you're going to say, no, you talk to them, they need this.
Totally.
That's a change, right? And it doesn't mean we want to make sure you know what we do. So we want to market to you. You will never download a white paper. You'll never come to a webinar, but hopefully you will know who we are as we go through the buying cycle. That's really important. And the second thing is, can we key in on who the core stakeholder is? We call that the entry point at Topo. There is an entry point. We have to embrace that entry point. It's actually been a big adjustment for experienced salespeople because they're selling to veto, right? They believe, wow, I get the meeting with the CIO and I'm in good shape. And their first instinct on any deal going wrong is to go call the CIO, but actually that's not true, right? We have a different way to buy. They have a different way that they buy.
So how are they adjusting? Is it technology? Is it changing the role? Is it?
Yeah. They're not?
No,
I mean, this is I think we're in an adjustment period. I think people are realizing it. You know, can we reach multiple stakeholders? Can we reach them in the way that they want to be reached? And then how do we know, right? And is it just how we reach them, or is it what's happening out there in the ether or the internet? All of these things matter today. So actually from a technology perspective, you can really see the power here because it's hard. It's really hard.
Technology is fabulous. Clearly, I'm a believer in that. Of
course.
And AI has come a really long way.
Yes.
But there's always, I think, a concern about, are the bots going to take over? How does AI change or maybe enhance our role as sellers and marketers?
Yeah, so, I do think AI has come a long way. I think I'm really looking forward for like the next, in a year or two, because then it's just gonna, we're gonna really see it.
Mind blowing.
Yeah, because I'm always skeptical. Look, I've been in the game for a long time, so I'm gonna be skeptical on the hype machine until I can see it. And one of the things that I believe with AI is that I originally thought of it, the initial use cases in sales and marketing and how we were talking about it before, I thought it was okay.
It was kind of like a shiny toy.
It was.
Less mainstream, help you get your job done.
Totally. And now I think the reason I'm excited about it is it can make us better and it can help us scale, right? So
let's dig on that.
Yeah. So we just did our account-based benchmark report.
Yes. And I'd love to read it, but I'd rather you just give me the cliff notes.
But as we talk about tech, the number one challenge is for marketers going into next year, probably for a while, is scale, building a scalable approach. So if you think about the people that we research, right? Mm-hmm. These are, early adopters, et cetera. So we love the fact that we can look at people that actually have done account-based pretty well.
Have they bought 25 different techs?
Well, of course, everyone started with that. But now it's cleaning itself out.
We call that the stack show.
We could talk about that in a sec. But now, there's real numbers came in, like good stuff. Basically, people were creating opportunities at a rate of, basically an opportunity for every 5 target accounts, which is nice. 20%, it's really predictable, really good, and it can improve from there. 33% budget increase going into next year from all the folks. That's really nice. And we could talk about what they're trying to do there because it is about scale. If we've learned anything in the digital marketing, call it evolution, revolution, whatever, I think CMOs and organizations, we got the early adopters. They're good, right? They know to isolate it, to do it in a sort of test bed, right? The sort of buying of lots of tools. I think that happened across the board. But like a early adopter is going to isolate it. The thing about early adopters you got to know, in my opinion, they want it to be tech-centric. They want data-driven, right? But they will sort of start with, can I prove this thing works? Okay, so let's say you prove it works. Now everyone's like, oh my gosh, go do this all the time. And now you got to think about scale, and it's right now things are relatively manual, right? So on the first set of things, it's very people-centric, how you go do it. Now you got to build a platform to go scale it, and that's why in the data it says the number one challenge into next year is to build a scalable approach. We won, now we got to win big.
So what do you recommend? They're going to buy something because they want to scale it. What do they look for?
Well,
Top things.
Yeah. So we talk about, what do you call when they buy lots of tools? You had a term for it?
Oh, I call it the stack show.
The stack show, yeah. Well, people do love stacks.
I know.
Well, I think.
And I'm not saying that people are going to rip out what they've already bought.
But they have settled in.
Yeah. I think it's when you look at your next technology purchase, going back to how buyers buy.
Yeah.
And the problems that creates, and making sure you buy something that's going to really address how your customers are buying.
Right.
And the problems it creates for your entire revenue team.
Yeah, totally. So if you take the stack show in ABM, the stack show in ABM was a lot, if you look at the way it sort of came out, there's a lot of tactics. There was a lot of things, right? And what the buyers wanted from the time this started, like our data qualitative, they kept saying, well, where's my, platform, right? How do I run this? Because remember, if you start with early adopters, they get it. Right?
And then they want to move.
They want to move fast, and they want to know, I built digital marketing on marketing automation. Where's my thing? Where's my platform for this? So they've been asking for that. The other thing that they've wanted is for technology to help them track it, because we're looking at new metrics, right?
Yeah.
And so that's been a struggle as well, right? And so you've had to piecemeal things. So if you take the stack show, which was a lot of things, for everyone, for scale, everyone wants a platform.
Now, I'm going to totally switch gears on you. Give me an outlier. One just complete outlier of something so bold that someone's doing in your customer base.
So bold.
Yeah.
Oh, man. We can't do talking sense with this? No, just kidding. All right. Yeah, pandering to the crowd.
We definitely want to be bold, but.
Yeah. How about not perfectly bold, but like something I've loved from one of my clients. And okay. So.
There's no such thing as perfectly bold.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's bold, but it's awesome because they took things that we know and they made them really good. So this is a customer that, just to set the context, when I met them 2 years ago, there was a meeting with sales and a meeting with marketing. And I tried to say, well, why don't we come together? They said, why would we do that? Okay. What I realized, though, is in most cases, I feel like both sides are right. Nobody can be 100% right, 100% wrong. In this case, actually,
it's like marriage.
Yeah, but marketing was pretty wrong because they wanted a batch and blast, and it was creating leads, it was creating meetings, and they were not working. Right, the conversion rates were really bad. So we went and talked about account base, whatever. They made a lot of changes, and the director of demand gen said, "I'm going to change everything here." And he was he's an amazing guy who's like very metric centric, wants to do amazing things with campaigns and et cetera. So one day he will be our example of bold. But what was the first thing he did? So first thing he did is he went to sales and said, "Who do you want?" And sales said, "We want these types of accounts who have our competitor." And he's like, what? We didn't even know that. He said, the data says we do better if they've already they've decided that they want something like this. He said, okay. And so he had all these crazy ideas, and then he said, you know what? We're just gonna take our events, and we're just gonna take our dinners, and I am going to nail the dinners. So it's something you and I know. So they did their first one, I forget the place, but it was some like killer place in Westchester, New York.
I want to get invited to their dinners.
And so he said, I'm going to get 40 executives in the target accounts there. And
that's bold. That's hard.
I know, it's hard. He did. There's these there's more things, but I just felt like that was amazing, right? And then I go and meet with them, and I asked sales, so they blew out their number, they got bought. And so I asked the VP of sales, I said, well, what changed? And he said, that guy. And he's talking about marketing. It was so cool, and the conversion rates are, so now they're trying all these new things, and they're doing all this out-of-the-box stuff. They did a take on Cards for Humanity, right? And they got sued, and they were so excited they got sued, right? So they're trying all these really cool things now because they've built this confidence, and they started with traditional tactics, right?
Don't you think, though, there's been an unfortunate trend towards quantity over quality?
Oh, yeah.
And maybe now, since we do have better data, it's time to just say, let's just take one event and nail it and do it amazing, versus doing 50 kind of half-baked ones.
I know. The data is is providing that ability. Because I actually don't blame marketers in the past. So we just didn't have the data and the knowledge. Like, you might as well throw it out there. But now throwing it out there is bad for the brand, bad for the experience. It doesn't get who you want, right? If you batch and blast to an event, you're going to get consultants, looky-loos, and Frank's Pizza.
People looking for a job.
Yes. If you're targeted, right, it takes a different effort, but it's the right thing. And then if you can figure out who those targets are, right, even better. And if you figure out who's highly engaged, that makes them even potential conversion, right? So you've got lots of data that can allow you to be really powerful today. And I think that wasn't the case before. So we can do these things now, and we can have an effect on the number, and we can do really, we can take things that we did before and take it, as you said, from less of a quantity perspective, a quality perspective, and knock it out of the park.
Well, Craig, thank you so much for coming on the show. I've learned a ton. I took 3 pages of notes. I'm sure our audience and our viewers will learn a ton from you too, and can't wait to have a cocktail with you later tonight.
Well, thanks for having me. I learned a lot in the conversation as well. So I don't have my notebook, but I will take notes after. So thank you very much, and looking forward to the cocktail too.
Thanks.